Welcome to the Guide Life podcast by Whiskey Sloughs. This show is about the work, the hunts, and the real side of guiding. No filters, no fluff, just what it takes to build and run a hunting operation from the ground up. Every week we'll cover everything from land management to habitat work to the daily grind of guiding waterfowl upland and turkey hunts here in Nebraska. I'm Hunter Runge, CEO, guide, and the voice behind the blind. Guys, we are back, another episode here with Sam and Bob, and today we're going to kind of kick it back a little different. I'd like to, give you guys a couple good update episodes, tell you what's going on in the business, but this one we kind of want to have a little fun with it. We've kind of compiled a list here of about 10 to 15 different waterfowl myths, hunting myths, and we're going to kind of just break them down and talk to you guys, kind of give you some tips and tricks too, but really see, is it a myth or are we busting them or not? It's waterfowl mythbusters. Except we don't have no scientists. Well, we have Sam. He's a waterfowl scientist, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Timu, waterfowl scientist.
Well,
yeah.
Timu's better than no moose, so.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we've been, it's hot out, so we're deciding we're going to knock out a bunch of podcasts and kind of kick it back. But let's just dive right into it. Bobby, what's number one? What do you got first?
Yeah, so up first, the more decoys, the better.
Well, that's such an easy one. I feel like that's kind of not even a myth anymore, is it?
I don't know. I mean, there's still a lot of people that when they come through, they're like, let's throw the kitchen sink at them. That way we kill more birds.
Well, not only that, but the couple times I've hunted in the South, they have monster mega spreads.
I will say I've had a lot of times when guys come in, especially the second day, if you run a small spread the first day, they're like, hey, we'll all get up early and help you throw more decoys. We'll really mess them up.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey,
I know I've had quite a few
I'll tell you
of those
who
comments.
the number one believer is in the business. The more decoys, the better.
Hey now.
It's you. It's
Oh,
Bob.
I do like.
I've watched Bob.
I've
watched Bob go to duck hunts before. No geese in the area, but he's taking sleeper shells because he wants to have more visibility.
Hey, I do like me a good sleeper. You never know when you're going to have that one lone duck flying, out there about a mile away, and he sees that big black blob of geese and goes, I want to be over there.
I do not. Bob, actually, I think you are almost a preacher for this myth. Because I don't think I've seen you hunt with less than 4 dozen decoys all year.
Yeah, that would be correct.
I don't think I would dare say it. I don't know if he's hunted with less than 5.
Oh, no. I did. I think about one day. It was about one time, and that would have been hunting the river on just an absolute X, and it was just that was where I needed to be, and that was just
me and
it.
Sam had one hunt on a very small ditch, and if we're counting not motion decoys, just decoys, we had 18. If we're counting motion decoys, we had 30.
I don't even know if we had 18.
I think we had 12 to 18. I thought we had a string and a half, is what I thought we put out. Anyways, 12 to 18, and then we had 12 spinners. Mashed them. Absolutely mashed
That
them.
is wild.
Well, we were hunting a creek that,
Yeah,
you know the
it's just
spot.
having one spinner to one decoy. That's just nuts. I mean, that kind of leads into the myth number 2. Do motion decoys always help? Do you really want that much
Not
motion
on water, but
and
what was
wind?
key about this, which I have a third myth that I can bring up into this too. But what's key about this is the ditch was not where the ducks wanted to be. They wanted to be on the neighbor's ditch, which we still don't know why. They love the neighbor's ditch and not our part of the ditch, but they love it. Anyways. So they come to the neighbor's ditch, and we had all the spinners to pull them off the neighbor's ditch and onto our ditch. And it worked. But myth number 3 that I can bring into here is ducks will not land in bean fields. The spinners were in a bean field. We hunted in a bean field. The creek was
No
in a
water
bean
on
field.
the bean. So
No
let's
water.
Make that
Dry
clear. Dry
beans.
bean field.
Mashed them.
Which we've
Almost
shot
all-
geese a lot in beans. But
We shot
ducks, it's
30. Of the
rare.
30 ducks, we shot our 6-man. Of our 6-man, probably 23 of them fell over the beans, if not more. 24.
Oh, yeah, easily.
We killed them over the beans. We killed them hovering over the spinners and the beans across the ditch. We only killed a few of them in the actual ditch.
That's a common thread, not just for ducks, though, but so I say this, and everyone would go, well, duh, it's wheat, of course. But, we've killed snow geese in winter wheat. We've killed ducks in winter wheat. When you think of Nebraska, 97, 98% of your population of migratory waterfowl are feeding in corn. Unless there's like snow and then, things change because what's easily accessible changes. But I remember the first time.
Except for the geese on the rye. The rye, the geese, they'll tear that crap up.
Oh, yeah. But I remember, like, what was it, like 3 years ago? Or I think it was the first year we were in business. There were snow geese feeding in a cornfield, and it's a field no one was able to hunt, and the closest field was winter wheat.
Oh,
and
that's one of my favorite fields.
Everyone was like, "You guys are real ballsy for trying this." And we tried it. We tried it. Me and Bob over here. We tried it.
Oh, that was a dirty hunt.
We whooped their ass.
I remember a hunt from this year.
And not once, but how many times we burned them in that field?
After we figured it out, we
and we found out the white decoys on that green backdrop, dude. We would pull snow geese from miles in that field. It was filthy.
Dude, we not burned them up, but we shot some ducks in cut summer wheat this year.
Yeah, that's wild.
We sent a couple of our guys. I scouted the hunt. So like again, half field, like quarter of the field was cut summer wheat, which is the only part of the field we could hunt. But there was corn behind it, and the ducks were in the corn and they leaked into the cut wheat, but there wasn't many. And we set up on the cut wheat, right on the edge of the corn on the cut wheat in the middle of the field, and they killed them. They killed them pretty good. Not limits, but they killed them pretty good. And it was cut gray summer wheat. And they killed him.
Basically, what we're saying is
you can kill him.
If you can't get on the X,
it don't have to
get close.
Yeah,
you'd be amazed at what you can do with decoy placement and good calling.
You'd be amazed what you can do with the proper setup. That myth is busted. It does not have to be corn to kill ducks in Nebraska. No. In dry field ducks in Nebraska.
Especially if you can get under a flight line. I mean, if you can get where the birds are close to the birds, where you're not, the farther you have to pull them, the better.
So back to your second one though. Motion decoys always help. That myth is busted. That is not true.
I'd say. Slow your roll just a little bit though. In fields.
Oh, I won't want to hunt ducks in a field
dry
without
fields.
it.
You have to have spinners.
Yeah, so it's half and half.
But over water, it's busted.
It's a trick.
We stopped using spinners in December,
and
water,
January, yes,
over water.
In water,
there's so many times over water where I'll usually when I'm guiding, I'll put them out, but I'll leave them off unless it's not working. Then I can hit the button on the remote. But you put them white side down, you put them off the edge of the spread, and you've got them if you need them to turn them on. If you're working a bird, you're working a group, they've spun you 6 times, you can't get them to commit, maybe you're going to try it, or you got a group that just won't look your way, maybe you're going to try flash net at them real quick. But, yeah, definitely later in the season, way less motion decoys.
Now, water motion, like swimmers and butt squirters and stuff, those, I don't
really think you're ever going to play a bird with the butt squirters. Maybe
we use
the
those,
swimmers. Never.
We use those pretty consistently just to create motion.
Especially another thing you got to take into account, just on the topic of motion in general, is when you have no wind.
No wind.
No wind at all.
Yeah, you're running something. It don't matter if it's a damn jerk rig. You got to have something.
Yeah.
We've undervalued the jerk
we
rig.
Have.
At Whiskey Sloughs. We always used the swimmers and the butt squirters, but we brought some jerk rigs into our rig this year.
I had a jerk rig save my ass one hunt.
Bob OG'd a jerk rig, tied a cinder block to a piece of
not even
ratchet
that
strap,
one.
and then tied that ratchet strap to all the Texas rigs. And
yanking
a ratchet strap
that
at one
one
point.
Wasn't my best idea, but I will say, so we were out on this hunt, and we lost our wind. We couldn't get them to finish. God bless a Southern client. He goes, "Son, you need a jerk rig." I said, "Yeah, I'd kill for one right now." And he had one of them blind bags that was the size of a duffel bag. And he starts digging, and he pulled a jerk rig out of his blind bag. And he's like, "Don't worry, I got you, buddy. Here's the anchor. Here's the rope." We smashed them after that. We started tearing into the ducks. And I was like, this old boy just traveled all the way across the country with a jerk rig in his blind bag that he figured he was never going to have to take out. But let me tell you, he did have to take it out, and it saved our bacon that hunt. It was
Saved your
it
bacon.
Was,
I have not
bacon.
heard that one in a long
We
time.
had him like sitting there. He was sitting there giving that thing the beans. He was having the time of his life, and we started just mashing the ducks after that.
So I think we can all agree that it depends on the location. In fields, they're a necessity. On water, motion can hurt you.
I would even go as far as to say the motion that usually hurts you is the spinners.
Spinners on water, yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, and like I would never run a swimmer in the river channel. Like it's not gonna do you much. Like the river, you don't really need them because the decoys move so much. But like on farm ponds, it's pretty rare that you don't want motion unless it's really windy because they're so small. You usually just don't have that much movement in the decoys otherwise.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about, Sam touched on it, but you don't need to be on the X to kill them.
Oh,
I cannot tell you how much that myth's busted, because I'll tell you another thing. Any guide service that says they're hunting an exact X every single day is lying to your face.
yeah.
Not unless you own the properties that they're on and you're swapping like marshland to pond to whatever. But if you're leasing ground like us, there's just no way.
Or the only other time I'd say that maybe is like
As if you have a monopoly.
you have a giant area of managed like water to where you're keeping a roost out in the middle of the same water you're hunting on, and yeah, you're
Exactly.
hunting like the general area.
It's-
But like,
well, let me rephrase. If you're in our part of the flyway.
yes, correct.
If you're hunting an X every single day. Because up in the potholes in North Dakota, you have twice the ducks we see, 3 times the ducks we see. And you can hunt an X, pothole X, every single day.
And it may be a micro X, but you'd
you
be
can
on
hunt
something.
one, yeah. Down here, that just doesn't exist. Like when we're hunting water, most of the time, yes,
I
we
would
hunt an X.
really go that far with geese, especially because
honkers, 200%.
the thing with geese is you might have 5,000, 10,000 geese hitting a field, but it might be the only field getting hit for 10, 15 miles. I mean,
Yeah.
and there might be, several of those in the area that everybody's trying to chase, which a lot of times we've got them, but there's days, same as any guide service, you don't have them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that goes back to like Sam was talking about really running the flashers, and Hunter was talking about, how we've shot them in beans and we've shot them in wheat because that's where we could get to next to them. And getting under that fly line, you can do a lot of damage, especially I really like to go that far on geese. Like geese, you can really traffic geese. There's so many options to where a goose will sit. You can run a loaf spread in a pasture. You can catch them on beans. You can catch them on corn. You can catch them on wheat. Like a goose will sit almost damn near anywhere if you really can convince it. A duck is a lot tougher.
I'd also you could really even take this one step further because I adapted this mindset myself a lot this year, and it worked out really well for me this year. Even in, this field is an X. Okay, great. Everyone's always looking, where are they at in that field? Like you want to be where they're at. How many times, do we, because you have to have a better hide or, something's just not favorable for you to be in the middle of a field or something.
Very often.
Side shooting and getting out of the decoys. The way I saw a video on Facebook, I don't know, during season sometime, and it's so stupid but so true. You're playing hide and seek, right? Are you gonna hide somewhere where they would expect you to? You're playing hide and seek in a house, right? Just you're in your living room. There's a couch. There's a closet. Where are you gonna hide? Everyone's gonna check the closet. Everyone's gonna there's places that are common that you think of to check. Birds are no different. They know. So thinking outside the box and hiding. For example, we've hit on the sides a lot. Side shooting is a very common thing. Or something I've done with Hunter and those guys before is maybe mixing, stuff behind you or, just trying different things. You don't need to be so much on the X that you're right where they want to be. Do what, most importantly, hide appropriately.
I'll tell you a big example of this because I had one of the farmers give me shit about it the other day because I would work with a lot of the farmers and we set up for a snow goose hunt, and all the local good old boys were kind of talking some shit on our snow goose hide, and we ended up stomping them pretty good. But we set up on this pond, and there was not really a hide anywhere to be had. The cattle had grazed it down good. And so when we're sitting there, we're setting up, we knew this pond was like the spot to be, but it was a really tough hide, and you got 10 guys to hide. We were like, what do you do here? And so we wanted to be on the part of the pond that, they'd been on and where the wind was going to be right and everything like that. We found a dip in the pasture where it just got a little bit lower, and we put all the layouts there, and we cut a enclosed trailer full of cedar trees, and we just made a mound in the middle of the pasture. And he was like, dude, you just are a giant green blob out in the pasture. He's like, ain't nothing going to land near you. We got videos of them landing, a yard off us. But the thing was, sometimes when there's not a hide, you got to make a hide. Kind of like sometimes when you don't have the X, you got to make something seem like an X. Your biggest thing is just getting underneath birds and going from there, because if you have a great hide but no birds, it's never going to work. But you got to have birds, you got to have a hide. You can get underneath the flight line. You can, cut them short in a different field that's something totally different. I mean, we've trafficked geese that are going to feed by hunting them over water in between, catching them on the way there and on the way back, or on a grass slope when they're hitting corn. It's very, common to do something like that. Same thing with making a hide, but we've all had some crazy hides we've made this year. I mean, we've hit on well houses in the middle of the field. We've hit and made cedar tree clumps. We've made a lot of times where you got to make that hide.
Mm-hmm. Tell you what, on the whole idea of being on the X too, kind of like I said earlier, how it's like impossible. I would like to change my statement. It's impossible. You would be being lied to in our flyway if you were on a major X every day. Because we have plenty of fields you could go hunt that's got 30 geese in it, and you're on some sort of an X.
Which then goes back to a whole different argument and I know there's all different times when we have different opinions on it, but would you rather run traffic in a field where you have a lot going over you, but nothing in the field? Would you rather set up on a small feed?
That's a great piece of conversation. I'm picking the traffic personally.
My personal favorite in a lot of scenarios, especially when it comes to geese, which is what I love to chase the most, is, if I got 50 birds in a field and that's it, but I've got a bunch coming over, I'd rather hunt that than a 300 bird feed, because I know I'm going to have a ton of birds to work, and I know I have some that are just going to come straight on a string that are going to be guaranteed
Well, that's
dead.
what I'm saying. If you have 50 geese in a field and it's just 50 and there's no traffic, or there's a field that has 0 geese but has 800 fly over it,
I'm taking the 800.
Yeah, I'm taking the 800 every day. Now, depends on how many clients you got too.
Yeah.
Because if you got 50, think about it. If you got 4 clients, limit of 20, 50 geese are coming to the field, and they're coming in 2 to 10 packs.
You could beat them up pretty dang good.
You probably got your limit, yeah.
Let alone, a lot of times we're in a heavy enough flyway that even if you only see so many in the field and you don't see them fly over, there's still a pretty good chance when you go to hunt it, you're going to have birds fly over. It's also a new day. You don't know, a feed could get busted up down the road. Birds could move around. You could get a push of birds overnight that don't know where they're going. I mean, there's a lot of days that it changes day to day, and there's a lot of days that even when you're scouting, you're trying to scout a giant area, you're not going to see everything that flies over one field for an entire several-hour stretch. And so you might only see, 80 in it at one point and 70 in it at one point, but you might not have seen another 50 joined up and then went back to water that you just missed while you were checking other fields. And that's just part of the scout. I mean, there's days where, if you've been watching a feed for several days, you're going to sit on it and just watch it for a few hours and really watch how they work. But most of the time you're trying to cover some ground and get several days worth of hunts kind of planned out so that you can keep watching them every day.
If you've got a hunt, it's good to sit on it, but especially like us, man, you do lose a lot of time. If you sit there all day, you'll know exactly what happens all day. If you sit there all day though, where you hunting the next day?
Well,
nobody knows.
The other thing is that part of the reason I don't sit on them when I'm scouting all the time is I may be thinking for the next 4 or 5 days all the time trying to have options. So I might be watching 15 different fields with birds in them and going, okay, I want to hunt this one later in the week. Let's let it build. and you're kind of just watching it to see if it's building. You're watching it to see what part of the field they're using each day, because if you can watch a field for 2 or 3 days or better before hunting it, you got pretty good odds you're going to smash them, because you know where they're coming from, what they're doing. You got them planned out.
I'd also like to put in, too, on, like, hunting traffic. Man, I have another hot take here, but it's the people who say you can't hunt traffic are not skilled enough in hunting to hunt traffic. You take a guy who's a good caller, really good caller, guys who are good callers with a lot of knowledge on waterfowl, that's all you need. Like, I know a couple people who have been mentors for us in the past who have talked about stories of hunting geese, trafficking geese. One of the guys is a world champion caller. And these guys, I mean, that's all they do is they hunt traffic.
Just be within a mile of the flight line.
Yeah, they need to be within earshot of the flight line, and they're killing geese, and they're killing a lot of geese.
Well, and that brings up a whole nother topic. Sometimes if you have a giant feed like that, there's days I would rather let that feed be there for the end of time, and if I can have a good traffic spot where I know I can kill them underneath and keep beating up those
I
same
have
birds.
been there on some big feeds, and they establish on the other side of the field, and you're watching geese land across from you all day until you get up and bump them, and you know what I'm saying? Because, like Sam said, for example, sometimes you can't sit on the shit pile. It just doesn't work. So you have to do what's the next best thing, and that thing could be too far away, and you're getting short-stopped and whatnot. Man, they're always going there, though. They're always flying over you. Less competition, too. You just got to break that flock down. You don't got to break that flock down and not risk them joining the guys across the road on the the feed that built across the road because you shot them up or yada, yada. I've had some examples where that's worked, but I would say for that to work, you need to have at least a 3,000 bird feed. 2,500
easily.
You need a massive feed.
It's not like if you have like 400 geese that you're just trying to traffic all the time, that's fine for 2-3 guys. It's not what you're trying to do if you're hunting the size groups we are.
Yeah, normally what we look for is obviously as a guide service, the very first thing you look for is, can you be on the X? Can we hunt the X, and is the X going to sustain enough birds? The way I look at it is a 30% rate. So if our limit's 30, we need to have at least 100 birds in that field
easily. Yeah.
If the limit's 30, because you are not killing over half the birds.
No, and I mean that's even with good shooting is 30. I mean,
we've had client groups in where you need 150% of what's in the field to kill them because they can't hit nothing. You need, you hunt 100 bird feed and you get 12 groups in and you've got 8 geese.
Yeah,
we've had that before too.
I've been there before.
That's neither here nor there with the idea of being on. But like the idea thing is, if you can get on the X, get on the X. But if you can't, which X is the biggest X that you can get on in between the line?
Yeah.
Then what's the best hide and so on and so forth. But yeah, like if we're scouting ponds for ducks, 100 mallards on a pond, major hut. You're probably killing your limit if you hunt a pond like that.
There's also something to be said of, like, if I'm going to run traffic and I know I have a hard X and I have a good traffic spot and, whatever else, but you're looking for several days of hunts, I'm going to try to hit traffic on a day with a really high wind blowing at the way they're coming off the water, because they're going to come out low, and you can traffic that every day of the week. Where if you're on the hard X and you have a no-wind day, you still got pretty good odds of trafficking them.
Exactly.
But running traffic on a no-wind day, especially if you got pressured birds, is impossible. So there's also something to say on, not just what option is the best without considering the weather, but like when you're watching all these fields, what one is going to match the wind right? Like what one is the roost, going to be downwind, so they're flying out to you in the wind so that they're going to come out low. Like trying to keep some of that stuff in mind when you're picking what day you're going to hit it is real important, especially if you can't be on that X like we're talking, is making sure, if you can pick a day where they're going to be flying out into the wind, over you, and you got a 20-mile-an-hour wind, it's going to push them low and make things a lot easier for you.
I'd say, I know what I won't say because I'm already thinking about this. Oh, man, we could have a whole different episode on opposite of myth busting, but like the in-depths of some of this stuff, man. Because like
don't side shoot them on a heavy wind, or you're going to be like me and miss every single goose you shoot at all day.
You're sending me down a rabbit hole right now. But Anyways, we're only going to get through about 4 of these myths because we've done chatted too much, but we'll have to pick it up on another episode, continue myth busting. But we're going to go, I'll move us on to our next one. We'll save the X thing for a whole different series because you got my mind spinning now. But so this one says, calling too much flares ducks. Oh, there are plenty of times that it does, but there is plenty of times that it does not. Me and Sam know specifically, and you know what, ducks and geese. Me and Sam specifically were hunting lessers one day, hammering them on the calls, and we couldn't kill shit. And we quieted down and we killed shit. But then a couple days later, hammering on the calls, quiet down when they come close, and we didn't kill shit. And we couldn't kill those lessers unless you spoke them till their feet hit the ground. It's different every day. That's
I would
my
say
opinion.
it's different every day, but I would also say the worse the calling is, the more that becomes
If you
true.
suck at calling,
Silence is your best
better
weapon.
just not calling at all.
Or just minimal calling on the corners and when they're out there. If you sound like a group of real ducks to the fullest, even on a low wind day, and you're doing a lot of calling to match the scenario, to match the decoy spread, to match the way the birds are working, it's a lot tougher to overcall. Not that less calling might not work better that day, but like you'll know if they aren't quite finishing right, but they're not usually going to just pick up and take off.
I got a good additive one to this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Are finesse notes, like finessey, like not completely natural notes, advantageous, or are they just for fluff?
I'm a big believer that
Can
they
I
have,
tell you? Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm
I
a big
know my
believer they
opinion on this.
have a big place. Like one of my favorite examples would be you're working geese on the river. You see them way off. Your first few honks a lot of times are going to be so stupidly loud and long drug out that it's not a natural honk. But is it getting their attention at a distance if they're not coming right at you?
Okay, so I would not call that finesse.
That's like aggressive.
That's aggressive.
I would go
But
unnatural.
it's
notes.
unnatural.
If
It's
we're going,
unnatural.
okay, now if we're talking finesse, or unnatural, my opinion's different. So where are we at here?
Well, we can discuss both.
I'm
but
thinking along the lines of like, I think ducks because I love ducks, Cajun squeals, stuff like that.
Cajun squeals break the fuck down out of ducks a lot of days. That choking on the corn, like, oh fuck.
I think it makes a massive difference.
What I would say
agree.
is this: unnatural calling all has its time and place.
Yes.
Exactly like you said. They're so far away, they can just hear kind of some pitches. They really can't make it out. Blare them. I do think there is times where, for example, you have to think about this. You're a mallard duck. You're flying around up 58, 100 yards in the air, and it's blowing 40 miles an hour. They will not hear a quiet finesse note. So there are times where I think that they just will not hear you, and it does not matter. Like, if it's super windy and they're flying super high and we're trying to get cut down, like a cut down greeting call or even like a cut down quack, quiet feeder, like maybe a little quiet refuge call, something to like finesse them. I think there's times where we think that it might be doing nothing or something and they just don't hear us, truly. Now, sometimes I think they hear you. Like if it's dead calm and you're doing a really cut down finesse and they're 50 yards over the top, they're going to obviously hear that. But if it's blowing, it's windy, if they're flying super high even, sound travels, but not, I mean, you got to think about it. Think about when you're side-by-side, in the side-by-side, I'm doing 30 down the gravel road in the side-by-side. You're trying to talk to me. You're yelling to talk to me. Now, granted, when you're flying and you have way better hearing, it's a whole different story, but that idea still applies. You're still catching drag as you're flying.
Well, and I mean, that a lot of that goes down into the weather conditions, the speed they're working at. Like,
I would
mean,
say
there's a
that
whole
they
lot
have
of
their
factors
time
to
and
that.
place. I would say they have their time and place. That's what I would say.
I think the biggest thing, though, there's been so many times this year where, like, everything's working great for me. I'm, like, doing the traditional. I'm greeting them when they're getting close, soft-talking them, throwing in a couple quacks, maybe a little bit of a feeding chuckle. And that's great. It's got their attention, but it's like, damn, they just aren't quite finishing. And you hit them with some type of, like, really finesse, like, quieter, like, squeal. Just a little bit of a whine in your call, like. Dude, I am because I finally learned how to do that last summer and like really, really master that note. Holy shit. That is like my go-to finishing note.
I'll give you my personal take on that. I think a lot of that boils down to, especially when you're hunting the river, which river birds can be tough birds.
They're just different birds.
But a lot of that is these birds fly up and down the river. The Platte River has a lot of blinds. Like, even if they're, like, our part of the river, no. But, like, a lot of these birds have traveled a lot of the river. They've been bounced around, whatever, especially if you haven't got to push for a while. Most guys calling at them either sound like crap or have very basic vocabs. I mean, 70 to 80% of the waterfowls in our waterfowl hunters in our region, just vocabs either limited or they just don't sound great. So these ducks have heard a lot of basic vocab and a lot of bad vocab, but it's pretty rare that they hear those finesse notes. And I think those finesse notes, when you start getting pressured birds, are what give them that last little bit of confidence they need, because they're like, oh, I've only heard that like set of noises from real ducks, or I haven't heard that noise when I watched my buddy Jimmy get blown the fuck out of the sky. Like, it's just, I think when it comes to pressure, I think some of those notes really come into play as the pressure increases late season.
I'll tell you one thing. Me and Sam have like a special bond when it comes to calling on the river.
Nuts.
By the way, me and Sam have got a whole thing. I don't know what you put me and Sam on the river, we're killing ducks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's pretty fun.
it is really fun. But I'll tell you one thing that him and I have figured out is it doesn't matter necessarily. This is on this like a necessarily how much you're calling, as long as you're not doing the same repetitive notes. Me and Sam, like, we look at it as the idea is like you're having a conversation.
You want to sound like real ducks.
We're
pressure.
having conversation while we're calling.
You got heard a water buffalo up there?
Yeah, Grant's here.
Oh, I was like,
Yeah,
holy
Grant's
crap.
here. A lot of conversation though. And you know what? Just like everything, it's almost like a song. It's like you're listening to music. If you're going loud and fast and quick and everything's moving, that sends sensitivity. It makes things, there's no ebb and flow to it. If you're just kind of rolling and highs and lows, and you're talking like for example, if the three of us are all sitting around and we're like, where are you going? Why are you leaving?
Well,
Come back. What are you doing?
That part of the conversation.
We're having fun.
You had a lull, and then you got a little picked up, then kind of a lull, just sounding
you're
natural, not like, get the fuck over here, get the fuck over here.
I don't look at it as how much you call. I look at it as what the story you're telling, how you're telling your story, what you're trying to say to the duck, not I'm calling too much. Because, see, think about it like this. If you're walking by all of us and no one says anything to you, you're not going to want to sit down and hang out with us. But if you walk by us and we're just yelling at each other, you're also probably not going to want to hang out with us. But if you hear some stuff, you're like, well, what are you talking about? You talking about hunting over here? You're like, oh, maybe I do want to come
you
sit
hear
down.
some food getting ate. You hear a little bit of soft talking.
Crack of a beer,
a little bit of jokes. Like,
you're like, oh man, I kind of want to hang out with these guys.
In the scenario, I mean, there's also something to be said about each note and what does that note represent. Like, when you hear that noise, what is that duck doing? Like, is it just talking to another duck? Is it saying, get away from my food? Like, what does that note really mean? Because kind of like you're saying, it's not just necessarily about how much you call and not even necessarily the volume, but, like, how aggressive are you sounding? Like, if you're sitting there saying, get over here, or if you're just sitting there like, yeah, I'm just kind of eating my food. How you doing, Jim?
Yeah.
Like, you could be talking a lot. Like, I might like to talk a lot like while I eat. Nobody's going to think a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
But, like, if I'm sitting here as you're flying by and I'm going, hey, get over here, hey, get over here, hey, get over here, hey, get over here, are you going to want to come over here, or are you going to think I'm just the drunk guy in the corner?
Exactly. Now, see, that's how I look at it. And, like, I do think to round the myth out, I think sometimes it does flare ducks. But I also think that there are times where an aggressive refuge call and that kind of discussion, that can really help too.
It's all reading the birds on the day.
I would say it's less about calling too much and it's more about knowing what knowing what the birds are doing.
If I had to give my biggest advice on just calling in general. Set aside whether you're a good or bad caller. Obviously, we hope you're a good caller, but watch the birds. Don't just blindly call, like, oh, duck's 50 yards out, and everyone's just wailing on calls. Like, watch what they're doing. Half the time, your decoys do most of the work for you. You can just watch those birds. Sometimes, most of the time, I try to take an approach where it's like, okay, these ducks are coming, they're coming. Okay, now they're veering off. Start calling. Like,
It's bit me in the ass a
Watch the
few
birds.
times, but
it's bit all of us in the ass.
I do not take my eyes off birds unless I know to look at them. I will be 100% exposed. Like we will be calling geese in layout blinds, and I'll have my hat. I'll wear a camo hat, but I'll have my eyes above the layout blind watching these geese until they're making that pass to come in. Then I'll duck below. But like, I do not take my eyes off those birds, and I watch those birds the entirety of the time, and I hide from those birds while watching them, like having some self-awareness. And I feel like that really helps me, is because I know exactly, like, I know if I make one note and that goose goes, you're like, oh, fuck, that's not it. Don't say that. Don't cluck too fast. Don't.
Especially, I've seen it a lot with ducks. You see them starting to drift off, and you hit them hard, you can bring them right back.
Yeah.
Where if you wait too long, and
One of
you're
my
like, where'd they go? They're gone.
One of my favorite things that I do, it's like a put down. It's like you're stopping here. You got like a mallard. You know what I'm talking about. You got a mallard drake. He's coming by. He's kind of looking like he might want to land on the other side of the spread. And I'll cut one down. I'll cut a hail call. I'll go like really fast, cut it back, quiet, mid volume, not loud. And almost every time I can do it, if I can get the note right. Sometimes if I'm too excited, it's a big group, I won't get it exactly right. But I can cut the note back, especially on singles. I'll pull that note back, and it'll stop them on a dime. You've seen it probably
I've watched
100
it
times.
many times.
They'll stop straight on a dime, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm landing right here." That is one of my.
I mean, you literally will watch them until it's like, okay, he needs to put the brakes on now. You'll do it,
and they'll stop.
They'll land perfect.
Yeah.
Like I've seen you do it to the point of like you're trying to land them for a specific shooter,
a
like
guy
left
to
side,
shoot.
right side, or
It's
like
one of the coolest
whatever to
things
get somebody
ever.
their duck.
And I've never understood why doing it like that causes them to react like that. I truly don't know. Only thing I can think of is it's like when you're at the bar and you're walking by and your buddy's like, "Hey, you're good. Come right here and sit next to me."
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of is something like it's like a note of encouragement. It's like, "You're good. Come hang out right here. You're fine. Sit down."
Yeah,
Instead of like I don't know where I should jump
note,
in.
Though, where it's like you've got to know the timing on it. Like if you do that as like it's going away, I almost guarantee you that bird's not going to come. Like it's just, it's weird. But I'd say a big thing too, like to consider with all of that is, having somebody with their eyes on them is really important. That's why having a lead caller is important and playing follow the leader. Because if everybody's got their heads out watching the birds,
You'll get busted.
You're going to get busted. But somebody needs to have their eyes on them. And it kind of goes back to what Sam was saying about, having a group of guys wailing on your calls. A lot of times just having one or two guys calling and somebody with their eyes on them. If everybody wants to break out their calls, take turns, whatever. But really always having a dedicated leader and just one guy watching the birds, everybody else heads down. That's like when we're hunting, like if I'm hunting with Hunter, I'm going to be so far down in my blind I can't see most of the time while he's calling, and I'm going to base my calling off what he's doing.
Yeah, and that's exactly what me and Hunter do, because there's times where I lead, there's times where he leads. We switch off a lot.
Depends on which side the birds are working.
Yeah, and the thing that's so great about it is, like, if Hunter's leading, I'm so hidden that I'm just looking at him. Or I don't even – he gets to a point, like, where with him, I don't even have to be looking at him. He's being aggressive on a call, and he's hail calling, great, I'll feed chuckle. Or, vice versa, whatever. Complimentary calling.
And there's a lot to be said about when you're team calling together like that. If one guy makes a bad note, a lot of times it gets buried in the other guy's notes. Like, it can really, like, especially if you have a limited vocab or you're more prone to making an accent, you can really, like, team calling can make great calling out of not the best calling.
But Bob, I'm going to cut you off there.
Yeah, no.
We made it through 4 of our myths. We ran a little bit long, but we'll have to pick this up on the next episode, bring you guys some more myths and some stuff like that. But I'll tell you guys, appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys want to book a hunt, you can call Grant at 308-224-7289. You can check us out on all socials at Whiskey Sloughs. Check out the Whiskey Sloughs YouTube channel. Website's whiskeysloughs.com. If you just type Whiskey Sloughs into Google, you'll about find everything you need. But we'll catch you guys on the next one.